right, so thank you for coming to the Income Tax Workshop today. My name is Natalie. I'm the Assistant Manager of Student Services here at the MSA, and I have my colleague Danielle. She's the Student Service Supervisor, and she will be monitoring the chat if you have any questions. So if you do, please put them in the chat box. This session is being recorded, so if you do want to refer back to it, you are able to once we upload it on our website. And I will introduce Bill. Bill is our MSA lawyer, and he provides legal counseling to students at Mohawk for free. So he helps with a wide variety of concerns and issues that students may have. Some are housing, family, employment, immigration, OSAP, criminal, and anything that you can think of. Bill will be there to support you. So Bill, if you want to get started.
Okay, well, thank you, Natalie. And just to kind of wrap up what Natalie was saying there, the whole range of legal issues, we do kind of recite that to let you know that most legal matters we can assist in some way. And if someone is not sure whether their issue is really a legal matter or whatever, do not hesitate to be in touch with me. I'm not going to be upset and say, well, that's not a legal issue. If it really isn't something that I'm the best person to help with, I will try to help you find, if I was the first person that you knew to talk to, that's fine. I'll try to help you to find the ideal person to assist you. So never hesitate to reach out and see if I can assist you with a legal issue or an issue that you think might be legal or an issue that you don't know who else can help. So yeah, today we're going to talk about income tax and especially a certain aspect of it that pertains to the 2020 tax year. But first of all, talking about students filing tax returns generally, often students feel that they don't need or should not file an income tax return if they didn't make much money or any money. However, it is really wise and in fact important to do so. You may be entitled to a tax refund even if you didn't have income in some small amount. But especially the tuition fee credits, depending upon how your tuition fees were paid, you may be entitled to a partial credit. And the thing is that if you are, it may not have to be applied to this year's income, because again, you may not have income this year, or you may not have enough to owe tax anyway. But the tuition fee credit you can carry forward to a future year when you are hoping to work and have an income and having to pay tax, and carry that credit forward and get a deduction in some future year when you're working and would otherwise have tax to pay. Another of the credits, the GST credit, GST, HST credit, and there are certain provincial credits, also a climate action incentive. And those are the main things that you may get back regardless of whether you had income or not, and especially in the case of the tuition fee credit, whether this year or in a future year. So by all means, it is very important for students to file income tax whether they had an income or not. And with that, we can move forward. So what we especially wanted to talk about today is the situation of working from home and what deduction that might allow students to have. And granted, this pertains to students who have been employed in 2020 and have worked from home. And I realize that many students are not employed, or if they were, that they had to work at their workplaces and that they did not manage to work from home. However, we try to provide information to students on a variety of legal matters, and anything that we talk about may not apply to everybody, or at least it may not apply right now to you personally, but it's good to be aware of these things. And there certainly are many students, not most proportionately, but a lot in terms of numbers, who have worked part of the year from home. And so we wanted to ensure that they were aware of this. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown, the Canada Revenue Agency did allow employees who worked from home to deduct a portion of their home office expenses from their income. That was always the case. Some people worked from home and they deducted a portion of their utilities, things like that. However, in 2020, so many more people have worked from home who historically did not. I am one of them because I provide the legal service at Mohawk and other schools, and I have always for years been around on campus. I've been at Mohawk on Thursdays for over 20 years, and I have been at other schools, and every week and I never worked from home, not officially. Obviously, I would do some work at home, but my work days were all at the student union offices. Well, since March of 2020, I've been working from home, providing the legal service remotely. And so I'm one of the many people who is working from home for the first time, and for reasons related to COVID-19. So the Canada Revenue Agency knew that people would be wanting to make that deduction for the first time, who never did before, for that reason. And so what they have done is to introduce a simplified system so that employees who work from home may use either the simplified system if it pertains to them, or the more detailed system that has existed in past years if that pertains to them. And in the future slides, we'll see how they each break down. So we can move on to the next slide. Under the new simplified system, what is required is if an employee worked from home full-time for at least 2 consecutive weeks, which would be normally 10 business days with days off being weekend, or if they worked Saturdays and or Sundays and had a different day off during the week, that's fine. But theoretically, 10 full days in a 2-week period during 2020, that would be the minimum in terms of how much work. It also has to be because of the COVID-19 pandemic and not for other reasons. And their employer must not have reimbursed them for those expenses. If an employee is working from home, but the employer is paying them something to cover the expenses that they're incurring working from home, then that employee may not make this claim. They haven't incurred expenses that they weren't reimbursed for. So if the employer did not reimburse the employee, and the employee then did have expenses, then they will qualify. And the deduction is $2 per day. So I said before about at least 10 full-time days in a 2-week consecutive period. That would be a $20 claim. So the maximum is $400 if someone worked full-time for at least 2 consecutive weeks and thereafter worked up to a maximum of 200 days, then they may claim the deduction of $2 for each day that they worked to a maximum of the 200 days, $400. So again, the requirements are to have worked from home for at least that 2 consecutive weeks full-time, also that it be because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that the employer did not reimburse them for those expenses. Then the deduction of $2 per day, up to a maximum of 200 days, $400. And we can move forward. So, as I said, it had to have been because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So either the employer must have required them to work from home or given them the option, and they chose to do so. But it must have been, as I've said, because of the pandemic, because of the shutdown, and either the employer left them no option or the employer gave an option and the employee chose to work from home. Now, an employee who uses the simplified system does not have to show proof of any expenses and does not need the employer to sign any documents. That is what keeps it simple. And if more than one member of a household worked from the same home, they can each claim the deduction. Again, this pertains to me. I have grown sons who are working from home. They didn't necessarily live here, but they one did, one did not, and both are right now working from home. And so they and I will all be able to claim the deduction individually on our income tax. And that's the way that the government has it set up. More than one member of a household is fine. No proof of expenses, no document signed by the employer, as long as the other conditions I already mentioned in the last slide are met, and we can move on. If an employee worked from home, but it was not because of the COVID-19 pandemic, then they must use the detailed method to calculate the claim, the detailed method that's already existed. If the employee wants to claim any work-related expenses other than for a home office, they must also use the detailed method. This would be, for example, vehicle expenses, parking, which is kind of separate from other vehicle expenses, potentially tools that they need to have, whether they purchase or rent or maintain. If, like all of these things, the government also allows employees to make a deduction for if they had to incur those expenses as part of working from home. But if they want to claim any of those expenses beyond that maximum $400 I mentioned under the simplified system, then they must use the detailed method to calculate that claim. And if an individual is self-employed, they likewise must complete different forms to calculate their claim for business use of their home. And we won't get into that today, but any student that pertains to is always welcome to reach out to me. Any student, as we've said, as they deal with any of the things we're talking about today, is welcome to be in touch with me. We'll come back at the end of the session to how to reach me. In the meantime, we can move on to the next slide. So to claim under the simplified system, the employee completes a certain form. It's Form T777S, which is easily found online, and we'll select option 1. And then they follow the instructions provided, which include filing a copy of that form with their other income tax forms. And that's all. To claim under the detailed system, the employee likewise completes the Form T777S, but selects option 2 and has their employer complete and sign Form T2200S. And then they file both forms. So the thing about the detailed system is when it's called detailed, the reason is because you have to provide more detail. The Canada Revenue Agency sets out on its website what the permitted expenses are. Certain things may be included, other things are not. And the employee has to calculate what percentage of their residence their home office is. And for instance, a single person, especially a student who lives alone, may have a small space, often rented, and their home office may be a significant percentage of that small space. And as a result, if they're using the detailed method, the expenses that they incur may be a significant percentage. The expenses relating to their home office use may be a significant percentage of their overall household expenses of those permitted kinds. However, their expenses likely are not that high if they're a single person in a small space. If someone has a larger home and other family members, then there will be higher expenses, but the percentage of the home used for the home office will be probably a lot smaller, a lot less. So this is why, again, the detailed method exists, and I can give anyone some direction if they feel that it may pertain to them. However, this is why the government has introduced this simplified system because, frankly, the deduction in most cases will be as much as people would receive if they used the detailed system anyway. It's just the government has made both systems available. And as I said, I can help someone if they need to determine which system applies to them, or if they have a choice, which one is better for them. And we can move forward. I think we have dealt with this. Yeah, so we're up to questions. Okay. And I think Daniela is going to field questions for me.
Yes.
Yes. So one student did have a question. So they just want to know if this seminar also applies to students who are international and it's their first time filing taxes in Canada.
It does. Yes, there is no distinction between international and domestic students with respect to the things I've talked about today.
Great. If anybody else has a question, you can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat. In the meantime, I'll put up Bill's contact information, and I'll also put his email in the chat if anybody else wants to reach out to him.
And thank you, Natalie, because I realize people sometimes don't want to discuss their personal business openly, and there's no reason why they should feel obligated to. I am very easy to reach. Natalie, you will attest to the fact that I reply to email promptly.
I always tell students that. I'm like, he will answer today.
So, as we said, but again, we go back to the fact that I'm available for any legal inquiry, and I can easily be reached. I see we have a question about tax services, and I guess someone else will answer that.
Yes, so the college does not offer tax services. However, the MSA is looking to partner with tax clinics within Hamilton. We will hopefully have that partnership figured out by the end of the week. So we will post something on our social media. And actually, if we do end up getting a partnership, we will email all the people that are in the workshop today to let them know. Any other questions? No problem. So like I said at the beginning, we've recorded the session, so we will be posting it on our website. And at the bottom, there is our link to our website. So if you do want to refer back to it or just find any other information about legal counseling that we offer at the MSA, you can find it there. We will be doing some prizing. So we will be giving out four $50 gift cards to 4 of the lucky people that are in here today. So we will contact you via email. And if there's no other questions, you are free to go. If you do have a question, you can hang back. We will stay on for the next 5-10 minutes. And other than that, everybody stay safe and thank you for attending the workshop.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Hi, Bill.